Hi everyone, and welcome back to my cabin in the forest. And to this story about how I ended up finding meaning in a way and in a place that I did not expect. It's only 6 years ago that I ventured out into this new and alternative way of living, and left my old life in the city behind. Back then I had a pretty normal life, with a desk job and in a hectic city. But in 2020 I quit that job to go live off-grid in a tiny house. Not because I planned to leave the city, but because I wanted to live more cheaply and also sustainably. Because if I could survive on a smaller income, I could maybe free up some time to train myself to become a writer. At least part-time, because then I could also work part-time as a private consultant. But I didn't want to leave the city, because that was where I could find work. But then the COVID lockdown of society happened, and everything suddenly changed. And suddenly I found myself being cut off from the world around me, learning how to live in an off-grid tiny house. And little did I know at the time, but that would mark the beginning of a completely new chapter in my life. After having lived for a year in my old off-grid tiny house just outside of the city, I decided to buy this forest property in the countryside. And out here, a completely new lifestyle started to take form. Not as a writer and not as a consultant, but as someone who lives more off the land in the forest. It was a little surprising that my life would take this turn and that I would find such joy in the simple and practical life. But after the COVID lockdown, I did not want to spend any more of my life than necessary in front of a screen, writing emails and having meetings on Zoom. Doing practical work that is connected to your survival has an inherent joy and satisfaction. And working outside in nature every day has a more calming effect on my nervous system than living in a stressful and hectic city. So when I moved out here, I instantly knew that this lifestyle was a better fit for me. However, I didn't immediately feel entirely comfortable in this way of life. Because the question now was, what should I actually do for a living when I can't just chop wood and eat berries all day? And in fact, I actually struggled for some years with this question. Not only the question about how to get an income, but also what should I do with my life? What is my purpose? I felt that I lived my life a little by random. Sometimes I earned money from doing presentations about tiny living, and sometimes I did a tiny house building course. But in retrospect, I think I felt that my life was a little aimless and that I needed something more concrete to steer after. And to be honest, I also felt that I betrayed my expectations to myself a little bit. That I should be using my talents to do more good in the world for other people than just myself. Because right now I was just living a relatively selfish life with no commitments and no real goals. At least that was how I thought about it at the time, but slowly I began to think about my life in a different way. As the time went by, I realized that I actually did have a purpose, but it wasn't what I've been looking for. In fact, it was standing right there in front of me, waiting to get noticed. And it dawned upon me after I've tried to get this YouTube channel going for some years. I was struggling with it, and as so many times before, I asked myself, why did I always have to do so many different things? Why didn't I have a clear focus? But then I realized that I actually did have that. That my presentations and YouTube channel and building courses all had one thing in common. That I, hopefully at least, got to inspire other people and get to teach them about off-grid living and tiny living. I saw a noble purpose in that. And once I started earning a more stable income on YouTube, it actually started to feel like a real job. Not a traditional job with just one description or title, but a job that contained many different types of work that all worked to the same end. Communicating and expressing my experiences, thoughts and ideas about this lifestyle. So in a way, I actually became a writer, sort of at least. Writing stories about my life, not presented in books, but in videos and also in presentations. And who knows, maybe I'll write a real book one of these days, where the chapters are based on the topics and the many comments of my best performing videos. But anyways, despite how self-centered this way of living might seem to some, it actually felt like I was doing some good in the world after all. I guess I just needed to reframe my thinking about what a proper work life is, and also my expectations to myself. I think it's important for all of us to have some kind of sense of purpose in our lives. Whether that purpose is expressed in big or small actions doesn't really matter. I think being of service to someone or something outside of your own immediate self-interest is what truly connects you to the world in a meaningful and deep way. And I think that having such a purpose can also be a way out of a life lived in quiet desperation, as the writer Henry David Thoreau talked about. He famously built and moved out into a cabin in the woods and lived there for 2 years in 1843. He talked about how people in a modern society seems to be overly focused on working, not to find true meaning, but to buy stuff. But the thing is that the things you own end up owning you. And before you know, you have changed yourself to this life that you can't easily get out of, and that isn't built up around a deeper meaning or purpose. The quiet desperation is what follows when you wake up and realize that. But maybe we don't all have to build a cabin and move out into the forest to come to this conclusion. Maybe the point is that if we change our circumstances and slow down every once in a while, we can gain new perspectives. And if you give yourself some healthy challenges, you can train new habits and ways of thinking. And after having lived this new life for a while, you might start to listen to yourself and realize new things about yourself. Things that you are capable of, and things that you dreamt about, but didn't dare to say out loud. Another way of finding meaning in life is something that most people almost never get to experience. Being alone. Most people are seldomly really alone. We live in densely populated cities. We have colleagues and friends and partners and families around us every day. And we are connected online as well. I am too out here in the forest, but I get to spend much more quiet time with myself than most people I know. And I really value that. But who would have thought that being in your own company is something that you'd have to learn? Not constantly escaping by being online, but truly being present with yourself. Not running from yourself, but getting to know who you actually are when all the noise dies down. And then see what emerges from that, what thoughts, what emotions, and what dreams. For me, it has taken a lot of courage. but I find a meaning in it because I have grown from it. Learned lessons about honesty and forgiveness. Like the fact that I've always dreamt about establishing a family, and now I know that even if that will never happen, I still know that I can have a good life. And also forgiving myself for the chances I let slip or people I hurt. I'm the only one that I will spend my entire life with, so it's important for me that that is an honest and worthwhile relationship. However, I do spend some time with people out here. But I have become much more selective with whom I spend my time with. Not that I'm writing people off, but it's just that I don't have the same social needs any longer. And to be honest, I also just don't have the time. Making YouTube videos like this is more than a full-time job. And when you often spend half the day just keeping the homestead going, you just don't have time for anything else. That's the reality I've created for myself. In many ways a lonesome life, but also a dedicated, a rewarding and a meaningful one. Alright, so thank you for watching this very personal essay video about how I unexpectedly found meaning in this cabin life or simple life out here in the forest. I have one point left to talk about, but I would rather do it face to face like this, because it's actually directed to you and it makes the most sense, I think, that I do this not with voiceover but face to face. And it's a point about how, to me, having the community that we have created on this channel, like this weekly check-in in and out with one another, by like you writing comments to my videos and me uploading the videos, and the small chats that we have back and forth, that is actually something that I did not in a million years expect that would be a part of my life, or especially a part of this journey. And now it's something that I wouldn't live without. I wouldn't do this without it, because it has become one of the things that I enjoy absolutely the most about this entire journey. It is this feeling of connection to other like-minded people who share some of the same life experiences, I would say, and also feelings about how it is to be the odd one out, or wanting to do something else with your life but don't know necessarily exactly how to do it, or like stuff like that. And I do not take that for granted at all, that people around you just get it, like get what it is that you're doing, and appreciate it or understand it even. And I feel that I do that with you guys, because I feel like you are the friends that I would want to talk with these things about. And I can totally say that honestly, because I can read that out of your comments and your life experiences. Some of you are to the older side, some of you are to the younger side, and there is a very broad spectrum, and you are from all over the world, and it just amazes me like how similar many of our thoughts and experiences are, even though I'm here in Scandinavia in a snowy forest, and a lot of you guys are in warmer climates and totally different life experiences, but some of the same basic realizations or challenges or struggles and feelings. And that's what makes this so meaningful to me, that I get to share my story in a way that resonates with other people, with you guys, because it elevates this personal journey of mine. Because yeah, it's fine that I can do stuff that I like and be out here in nature, and it's fine that I can earn some money from YouTube and presentations, but having that connection to other people who really seem to get you, and also who are supportive of you, like emotionally. Like my friends, they're taken aback about how supportive you are as a community, like the level of engagement and the warmth and love that you express or send to me and my dog Bosimat. It's very, very yeah, I'm very touched by it actually. Even though it's not something that I talk about regularly on this channel, it's still a very important aspect of this entire journey for me. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. It's very special. So, but anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it and maybe even found some inspiration. See you again next time. Bye. If you enjoyed this more philosophical video, I made a playlist with other similar videos that you can go and watch here. And if you haven't yet seen my video from last week, you can go and watch it here.